Welcome to Sitcom Showdown, a podcast that reviews classic sitcom episodes and inducts them into our very own Hall of Fame. As usual, one of us has chosen a sitcom episode and the other guy has no idea what it's going to be. Will they already know it? Will they love it? Can they be convinced that it's worthy? Let's find out on the Sitcom Showdown. Hello and welcome back to Sitcom Showdown for October with Steve. Hello, Steve.
Yes, hello listeners.
Yes, and it's
Great to be back.
It is too. It's my turn for Halloween month in 2019.
Yes.
Oh,
Looking forward to this.
Are you really?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, good.
What have you chosen?
Well, I hope you left your brain in the boot of the car there, Steve-O. Because I've chosen an episode of Bottom.
Oh, for Halloween.
Yeah, with Rick and Aid.
Okay.
Yeah, for Halloween, yes. So it's amazing, you know, we often choose American sitcoms for your Halloween episode, which is entirely logical, but not this time. No.
Yes. This is a logic-free zone for the next 45 minutes.
I hope so. It's going to need to be. Yeah, so we've got a Series 3 episode of Bottom, which was the final series for the show. Episode 2, and it's called Terror. It's from January 1995, and it went out on BBC Two. When you look back over the three series, Series 1 was in 1991, and Series 2 is in 1992.
Right.
And then you have to skip forward a few years to 1995 for Series 3. Not sure what was happening there.
Maybe the boys had other projects on or something.
Oh, they might have done. So I'm going to give us a description of what Bottom is.
All right, this shouldn't take long.
Yeah, no, it shouldn't do. I'm going to take it straight from the internet. But I'm just warning you in advance, Steve, that when we get to the cast, I'm going to get you to tell us about the cast, because you should already know. So this will be a test of your abilities. All right, anyway, while you think about that, the IMDb one-sentence definition of what Bottom the sitcom is from the UK is as follows. Two perpetually bored and broke flatmates waste their days in a futile struggle to get laid, earn cash, and not kill one another.
Yeah, that's quite succinct, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I'll take exception with the phrase earn cash. Like, come into cash, get cash without doing any work, not necessarily earn.
Yes.
Right.
Preferably not earn.
Yeah, that's right. So moving over to Wikipedia, Bottom is a British TV sitcom created by Adrian Edmondson and Rick Mayall that originally aired on BBC Two from 17th of September 1991. The show stars Edmondson and Mayall and as Edward Elizabeth Eddie Hitler and Richard Eddie and Richie, two crude, perverted flatmates with no jobs and little money who live in Hammersmith, West London. The show is noted for its chaotic, nihilistic humour and violent comedy slapstick. That's also right. And
yes, who doesn't love violent comedy slapstick?
Yeah.
Involving cricket bats and other things.
Yeah, that's right. I enjoy it. So, we will move on to the cast in a moment. Oh, no. What I will do is tell you what awards it might have won.
Oh, okay.
So, it won Best New Comedy for 1992 at the British Comedy Awards. Fair enough. I mean, it's not a BAFTA, but what is?
A BAFTA is a BAFTA.
A BAFTA is a BAFTA. In 2004, it came 45th in the all-time Best British Sitcom.
Is
BBC
this the best you could come up with?
Yeah.
It ranked 45.
We're about to find out why. Look, man, I was amazed it cracked the top 50.
Okay. Well, when you put it
like
like that.
The 45th best British sitcom of all time. Bottom. Good-o. So we're moving on to the cast. Now, if everyone doesn't know who Rick Mayall and Adrian Edmondson are, then where have you been?
Yes.
But, I'll hand it over to you.
We've talked about them at least.
Oh, millions of times. Okay, well, you launch into that, Steve. Perhaps we should start with Rick.
Yeah, I'll start with Rick.
Yeah, cool.
Sadly, now deceased, Rick was, well, both of them got their start in terms of being well-known in the young ones, which we've obviously covered before in some episode.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about Bambi, I think it was.
Yep.
And then he went on to do Bottom and The New Statesman and...
oh, yeah. I forgot about The New Statesman.
Other things. What are the other?
Well, Believe Nothing was one where Rick was Professor Adonis Canute. That was quite a dark sitcom, that one. Yeah, and there was Comic Strip Presents, but
yes,
I think we left that out because it's not really a sitcom as such. Would you describe it as a sketch, one-off?
No.
Drama, comedy?
Yeah, they're one-offs.
Yeah.
So it's not episodic, but it's definitely got a bit more of a story to it than just being sketch comedy.
True.
I would say.
Yeah.
what was the other thing I was going to mention? Oh, his starring turns in Blackadder 2, 3, and 4. Series 2, 3,
As
and 4.
Flash Art?
Yes.
Yeah.
Various incarnations of Flash Art.
Oh, it's tip-top.
Flash.
Stealing the show, as he always does.
Yep.
Yeah, and then he was in the Greg Davies sitcom as well, as Greg's dad. Well, not Greg's dad, but the character's dad.
Yep. All those things.
Yes, what about Aid?
Well, he was in a lot of those things.
That's true. You could just say ditto and be done with it.
Yep. Well, we haven't mentioned
Filthy Rich and
Filthy Rich and
Catflap.
Catflap.
Yes. The greatest sitcom
was
of
in
all
that
time. Yeah.
I think Filthy Rich and Catflap is a level above Bottom myself.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, let's not do spoilers because that might come up later on.
All right. Yes, I don't think Aid's been in as quite as many things as Rick was, but as he's still around, maybe he'll carry on to do more things in the end. We'll see.
Ooh. Well, I did see one where
He's still working.
was. Yeah, that's right. He's got his side project band and all these sorts of things as well. But there was a sitcom where...
You're saying his side project was banned, or
no,
his side project was actually banned from...
Yeah, no. It's a band. I forget what the band is called. Either way, it doesn't matter. But he was in a sitcom not long ago. I'm having memory problems this evening, but he played a father, and it was about...
Well, they're of that age now.
Him and his dodgy kids. Yeah, that's right. And I enjoyed it, but I didn't keep it. So hence I haven't rewatched it since it was on, maybe 5 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago.
Yep.
So
this is terrible.
I'm a fountain of no knowledge this evening. But this is why I'm asking you to do all this, because I hadn't prepared these notes. All right, let's move on to Christopher Ryan. Yes.
Oh, he was in...
The Young Ones.
Yeah, he was in The Young Ones.
And Bottom.
And he had a starring turn in the last episode we looked at, which was an episode of One Foot in the Grave.
Oh, that's true. Oh, crikey. So that's 2 in a row for Christopher Ryan.
What are the chances?
All right, we're doing well here. Let's press on. So, the other character in Bottom who's a regular is someone called Spud Gunn.
Spud Gunn.
Yeah, that's him. So, Stephen O'Donnell, probably most well known for being in Bottom, of course, but he has done episodes of The Bill. And in 1993, when obviously Bottom was on a break, he was in Lovejoy and he was in Minder and, all this sort of stuff. But I don't think he's ever had his own series, so to speak. So we'll move on to a guest star for the episode we're about to watch.
Oh, who is it?
And her name's Lisa Coleman.
And?
Yes. So she isn't an adult in this. Like, she's a kiddie playing a kiddie's role in this one. But her career spans from 1977 to 2012, according to IMDb. But I saw her name.
She
and
must have been young in 77 then. Was she playing a toddler?
Yeah, you'd think so. I think so, yeah. That sounded about right. So even if in this episode of Bottom, I think she's playing a teenager, so let's say she was 20 or something playing a teenager. Yeah. Anyway, quite young. So she was in Press Gang and Casualty and a series called Tracy Beaker. There was 3 different series with different names, but it was all, it might be the adventures of Tracy Beaker and Tracy Beaker Returns and blah, blah, blah. She's not in the title role, by the way, this Lisa Coleman. She plays another regular character in that show.
So she's not Tracy Beaker?
No, definitely not. So IMDb tells me.
Something Bunsen burner.
Yeah, that's her.
It's a science-based show.
Yeah. Well, maybe, her character gets all the lines because we know the Beaker character just goes around going, "Ooh."
I was going to mention Beaker from the Muppets.
From the Moopays. Okay. Anyway, so I saw the name Coleman and I thought, I wonder if she's the sister of Charlotte Coleman, Marmalade Atkins from Educating Marmalade. And she is.
What about Olivia Colman?
Olivia Colman. I don't think she's part of that famous Coleman family, is she?
No, she's part of another famous Coleman
family.
family.
She is now. Yeah, it took her decades to come out from under the shadow of the other Colemans she's not related to.
That was her.
Yeah.
It was her starring role in...
What are you saying about Swiss Tony?
Swiss Tony that
launched her career
to fame.
It absolutely is. Criminally underrated. Old Swiss Tones. Okay, so we've done the cast, we've done the description. All that's left to do now is actually watch the bloody thing.
Oh, okay.
And then come back and sit through a hugely enormous synopsis and then make comments.
Okay.
Excellent. All right, let's go off and watch the show.
Trick or treat?
What does that mean?
It means you give us some cash. No sweets, no credit cards.
Why?
Because it's the end of October.
I don't understand.
Look, we haven't got all night. We've got the whole street to do. Now, I've got my tights on, Eddie's wearing a banana, now just give us some cash.
All right, Steve, shall I just launch into this synopsis?
Yes, go for it.
Okay, so this episode starts with Richie in the flat cooking with whatever it is in the pan is in flames. Richie's got his apron on over his shirt and tie.
Yep.
Because, I don't know why, but for someone who lives such a sloppy life, he likes to dress in the proper British manner.
Yes, it's a bit inconceivable that both of them, it's 8:30 in the morning and both of them are wearing shirt and tie.
Yeah.
And Eddie's even got a jacket on.
Yeah,
so.
Eddie wears his suit. Oh, dear. Yet they don't do any cleaning or anything because every appliance and cupboard in the house is caked in muck. Anyway, Eddie bursts in holding up a newspaper. He's shouting, "It's arrived! It's arrived!" So it turns out that Eddie and Richie had entered this Spot the Ball competition and they were convinced they were going to win. Mm-hmm. So they must have bought multiple copies of the paper and, sent them off. Anyhow.
£25 the entries
in postal
cost.
orders or...
Yeah.
Where do they get that sort of money? Anyhow, they discover they haven't won and they're very disappointed. But none of this has got anything to do with the plot. And it's basically just
Hang on, before we move on.
Yes.
This is a competition where someone has taken a photo of a football game.
Yep.
And they've somehow
removed
the ball out of the picture, and you've got to guess where it should be.
Yep.
Right, okay.
Bang on.
Yep. Okay. I thought I had it right, but worth checking.
Nothing in this show would actually give you that impression apart from one of the jokes that Eddie makes. But anyway,
we'll leave it up to the listener's imagination as to how the
used
boys
that
have...
for comedy reasons.
Yeah, misinterpreted this competition.
Yeah. All I've written is basically... It has nothing to do with the plot. It's just a setup for a bunch of gags about balls. So anyway, that's just a warm-up because as they move on to discuss Richie's cooking of breakfast, they do manage to cram in a stream of juvenile innuendo involving sausages, flakes, juice, and so on.
Yes, I just had breakfast double entendres written down.
One after another after another.
Yep.
Can I drink your juice? So when the doorbell rings, well, it sort of doesn't ring, it's a knock. But Eddie observes, someone's giving our knocker a damn good banging.
They're
you get an idea of the tone of the... Anyway, let's not justify their lines for them. Right, so Eddie answers the door. Finally, he gets up, goes and answers the door to these three small lads, and they're all dressed in devil costumes, which he clearly doesn't expect.
Yes.
He says, "Richie, there's three small devils at the front door."
It's a bit strange that they'd be doing trick-or-treat at 8:30 in the morning.
Oh, well, yeah, exactly. They're obviously pretty keen.
So does he just hasn't checked the calendar and doesn't realise it's October 31st? Or
It's
is it
like they have no idea what Halloween
hasn't
is.
seeped into his consciousness yet?
No. Same as we'll find out with Spud Gunn. Anyhow, Eddie has cried out, "Richie, there's three small devils at the front door." And in response back, Richie says, "Don't worry, Eddie, you're just hallucinating. You haven't had any alcohol this morning. It's the DTs. Just chill out. Come back to the lounge room." And he starts making Eddie a little drink out of whatever ingredients he can find in the kitchen.
Yes, I had written Domestos and fly spray down as a couple of notable inclusions.
Meanwhile, while Richie's mixing this drink for him, the kiddies say trick or treat. And Eddie says, "What? I don't understand. I don't speak, child. What does that mean?" And they say, "Trick or treat, you bald-headed bastard," which isn't very diplomatic when you're trying to get sweets.
No, but he did understand that bit.
He did. He says, "What do you want?" And they say, "Well, give us some sweets." He goes, "What sort of setup is this? I can't give you sweets. I'll get arrested." And anyway, so to cut a long story short, they have to trick him. Yep. And they shove a three-pronged devil's pitchfork right into his knackers. And then we see Eddie staggering into the kitchen with this pitchfork sticking out of his trouser region.
Yep.
So a bit painful. And Eddie says, "That is the most violent hallucination I've ever had." Oh, dear. So Eddie goes back to the kitchen.
Don't worry, the drink is going to take the edge off.
Yeah, that's right.
Take the edge off this pain.
So as Eddie is swinging around to look at something. Obviously, the handle of this pitchfork whips around and catches Richie in the back of the head.
Yep.
And then he'll go, what was that noise? And turn back the other way and then whack. Gets rid of it. Anyway, so Richie, in an attempt to get Eddie to calm down, gives him the nice drink. And he goes, up the nose or not at all.
Yep.
So,
And he has not just one straw, he's got one for each nostril.
And he snorts this concoction up his nose. Oh, dear. Anyway, so this is obviously going to help Eddie's hallucinations, is it? At which point Eddie falls over unconscious. But, of course, as he's falling backwards, the handle of the thing goes rising up into the air and smacks Richie in the head again. And then Richie falls down unconscious. So then...
yes, that was well done.
Yes, they're both down and out, but we...
Not for the first time in this episode either.
So we cut to the next scene.
Are we taking a
account
of how many unconscious...
All right, you can start
people
taking account there if you don't mind, Steve.
Count of 2 so far.
Yes.
Carry on.
Okay, so we've cut to the next scene, where Richie strolls into the lounge wearing a devil costume. Now, can you describe this devil costume, Dave?
Well, I'd say it's mostly traditional from the waist up. But then he's wearing a pair of see-through tights. They are red, the first pair he has on.
Yep.
But they're
to match
sheer, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. You can see right through them.
He's got the
his bare legs and
red
his Y
horns
fronts
on and the cape.
Yeah, so he's got his cape and the horns.
Yeah.
And
why he's not wearing any pants under the stockings is...
I don't know. So he can be there in his Y fronts. Yeah. So anyway, Richie in his Y fronts with some see-through...
chance to get around without his pants and his knickers pulled up. His jocks pulled up as high as
under his armpits. Oh, my goodness. All right, so can you picture that, audience? All right, very good. Then Eddie follows in a banana costume, which on its own needs no explanation. It's just funny because it's not very Halloweeny.
Yes. Did they go out to get this or did they just happen to have it lying around?
They must have gone out to get it,
right, okay.
Which is why I don't understand why Richie is surprised to see Eddie in a banana. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's not worry about that.
Because the pumpkin wasn't available.
Yeah, that's right. Here's a clip.
Why are you dressed as a banana?
They didn't have any pumpkin outfits left.
Give me straight. Well, you just have to make pumpkin noises.
All right.
All right. You just have to be mute.
What, a mute pumpkin or a mute banana?
Shut up.
Okay, so for our benefit, Richie and Eddie go through the Halloween plan, which is a brilliant scene. And the plan is to go through a Halloween party. They have to go trick-or-treating to get the cash to buy the booze so that they can host the party. So that's the whole plan. Hence the Halloween costumes, and they're going to hit the streets.
Right.
Now, how are they going to encourage people to give them just cash, no sweets? All right, so this is their approach, is to ring the doorbell.
No credit cards.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Unquote. But if there's any pushback from the person behind the door, they're going to zap the victim with the electric cattle prod. But, says the viewer, they don't have an electric cattle prod, do they? Yes, indeedy,
Yes.
as Eddie would say. So Eddie grabs this bloody great enormous cattle prod from behind the sofa and he hands it to Richie, and Richie's admiring it. Oh, that looks the business, Eddie. So can you describe the cattle prod, Steve?
Imagine something out of Mad Max or The Matrix
it's got to be
or something
6 foot
like
long.
this. Oh, yes, at least. You've got a sling.
Over your shoulder.
Put it over your shoulder.
Yep. And it looks like bits of protective foam, and it's been welded together haphazardly. And anyway, Richie has now got possession of this cattle prod, which is dangerous in itself.
What could possibly go wrong?
Oh. And he asks Eddie how to switch it on. There you go, Richie. It's just that lever there. And then Eddie runs off with his fingers in his ears. Oh, man. Anyway, we hear this huge electrical build-up in the air, and we see all this lightning discharge and hear what can only be described as a sort of ploppy sound.
Yes. We haven't said this already, but the sound effects in this show are always on point.
I wonder how they made them.
He's filling his Y fronts.
Yes. So this has, indicating the cattle prod made Richie soil himself very messily. And all Richie says is that he's going to have to wear the green tights after all.
Yes.
So presumably he goes off to get changed. Anyway, we jump ahead to a scene out in the sort of darkened street with Richie and Eddie out trick-or-treating. But unfortunately, Eddie spies the 3 kids who rumbled him earlier. And he's a bit frightened. He goes, "What are we going to do, Richie?" And Richie says, "Don't you worry, Eddie. They're only little kids. I reckon we could get a win out of this one."
Yep.
Why? He's so desperate to get a win that he's going to get into a punch-up with the three kiddies. So, yeah, Richie's encouraging Eddie to be brave. So they follow the trio of criminal kiddies behind sort of a hoarding thing to fight them, but, not letting the audience see the fight and leave it up to our imagination. So we're hearing all these, punching and shouting and breaking glass and barking dogs, and you see a toy dog being thrown up and all these things appearing above the fence line. And then Eddie pops his head over, straight to the audience, right down the camera goes, "It's going very well. Keep watching." And, oh, man, anyway. Needless to say, any second after that, three kids come victoriously swaggering out with all the stuff they've stolen from Eddie and Richie. And Eddie and Richie limp out, having been beaten up by the 3 7-year-olds or whatever. Classic.
Let's not leave the scene without making comment on the epic posters that are put across the front of this hoarding. We've got this Jesus and Mary chain poster.
Yep.
And Epic Carnage was the other one.
Yeah, Maximum Carnage.
Carnage.
Which is very timely because Marvel's having a big Carnage event at the moment where I think the Carnage symbiote takes over all the heroes in the Marvel universe. I think it's about to infect Hulk, and then, a Hulk Carnage crossover is how you're going to beat that. Anyway, let's not get into the comics realm.
Yes.
But that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the other one was James Taylor, wasn't it? The other poster?
Was it James Taylor?
I think so. Oh, well,
Not quite sure how James Taylor goes together with
Jesus and Mary Chain and Carnage. Well, who knows? Maybe they got the same.
Oh, the
promoter.
incongruity.
Yeah. Anyway, not to be defeated, Eddie and Richie, they're going to press on very bravely, and they ring a doorbell to continue trick-or-treating, because having lost all their goodies, they now need to build up their supplies again. Anyway, so the door is answered by their friend, well, sort of Eddie's acquaintance, Spud Gunn. And this sort of sets Eddie back on his heels a bit. He doesn't want to cattle prod someone he knows. And he's a bit embarrassed.
So they've never been to Spud Gunn's house before?
No. This will come up later.
Right.
When we're looking at plot holes. Yeah, Richie just looks annoyed. And he goes, yes, hello. Because he doesn't get on with Spud Gunn. But Rick, throughout this whole scene, is trying desperately not to crack up laughing.
He's a hair's breadth away from losing it.
I think they must have done several takes and he just couldn't stop giggling, and then finally they ran out of studio time. Anyway, it's all very good. So he turns to Eddie, Richie does, and says, look, are we going to do this or not? And Eddie's quite embarrassed, but he does say trick or treat to Spud Gunn, who does not understand any of this. And Richie becomes really impatient with Spud Gunn, and he just basically demands cash. And when Spud Gunn doesn't pay, Richie asks Eddie to give him the cattle prod. I.e., right, give it to me.
Yep.
Which Eddie misunderstands
and
and switches it on and, quote, gives it to him. Hits Richie with the full force of this cattle prod, causing Richie to again poo his pants. And so Richie goes, bear with me, and limps off back home.
Time to get the brown
tights.
Pantyhose.
So we've cut to some time later, and both Spud Gunn and Eddie are leaning on the brick wall out front of Spud Gunn's place.
A fag.
Finishing off a massive can of lager each, so they've been there for some time. And then Richie comes back, he goes, right, are we going to do this properly or not? And he's down to his last pair of tights. And so obviously it didn't work last time, but Richie insists on doing it again. So he pushes Spud Gunn back behind the door, and he said, right, Eddie, now hand me the cattle prod. And he goes, hand me the cattle prod. Oh, it was great. So once again, they ring the doorbell. Spud Gunn answers. Spud Gunn refuses to pay. Richie tries the cattle prod, which again backfires on him, and he craps his last pair of tights.
Yep.
But like,
didn't see that coming.
No, they'd only set it up several times before that. But what we've missed out on here is a whole load of Rick interacting with Spud Gunn, and just the faces he's pulling and all the line delivery. It's just brilliant Rick Mail excellence. But of course, it's all completely downhill from here, Steve-o. Even in my opinion. So
we've reached the pinnacle, have we?
We've reached the pinnacle. Yeah, Richie's sort of quite sad and defeated, and he can't go on. And Eddie says they'll never make enough for the party. But Spud Gun overhears this, and he goes, "Oh, is there a party?" And so they convince him to come along if he's going to chip in beer money, but all he's got is £2.50. Like, all right, that'll do. And they take Spud Gun's money and they say, "Bring all your friends," and they've all got to bring £2.50 as well. And they think this has solved all their problems. Anyhow, end of scene, and we enter the second half. So it's a bit later, and we're in the flat, and Richie and Eddie are sort of preparing everything for this party, where in Richie's mind, right, presumably it's going to be tons of hedonistic guests turning up with endless litres of booze and supermodel chicks all hanging on Richie's every word, right? So this is what he's expecting. And this happens quite often in Bottom. Richie's delusions of, I don't know, not grandeur, but something. So yeah, it's basically going to be an orgy filled with gorgeous women all wanting Richie. But what's actually happening is that Eddie's tending to a filthy bath half full of home brew mixture. Which is eating the enamel off the bath. Richie's cooking some sort of party food, which he's calling Sprouts Mexicane. And I think it's a mixture of...
You cannot hold this brew in traditional glassware.
Because it dissolves the mugs. Anyway, so it's a mixture of this Sprouts Mexicane is probably 90% chili powder and Tabasco and 10% rotten sprouts.
Yes, it's been left over since last Christmas. But,
don't
worry, the spices will cover up the
any embarrassment.
Spices, including gunpowder.
Yeah. yes, he's put gunpowder in there. Right, yeah. He has, which explains what we're going to see later on. But for decorations in the flat, Eddie couldn't buy any pumpkins to carve. Because all the kiddies would have bought the pumpkins to carve them, so he's got carrots.
What are you going to do it in the last minute?
No, I don't know. Well, buy a locker full of carrots.
Explosive carrots.
So he goes, Richie said, "Oh, have you carved them all out, Eddie, and made them all pants scary?" And he goes, "Yep, I sure have." And he holds up this carrot with a smiley face painted on it, and he goes, "Ooh." Headbutt. And he hits Richie on the head with it.
I wonder if he improvised the headbutt.
Oh. Yeah, that would have been cool if he did.
He probably stuck it up his nose in another take. Or in his ear.
Yeah, that would have been good to be in the audience for that one. Right, where are we? Okay, so
scary carrot.
Not very scary carrot. But then Eddie points out that he's filled it with gunpowder. He goes, "Right, light the taper, Richie." And so they carefully put it in a glass on the coffee table. Yeah. And they light the taper, and Eddie says, "Stand back, Richie."
Yep.
And then this thing, it does do an impressive explosion.
Yes.
I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, so they are scary carrots.
And there's a whole trunkload of them.
Yes, placed conveniently in the lounge room for later on, winky wink. Anyway, yeah, so he demonstrates one, and that goes well.
There is a suitable separation distance between the bath of homebrew and the carrot trunk.
Yeah, you can't light anything too close. You can't have them
too close to each other.
No, because the homebrew's too volatile. Yeah, you're quite right. I didn't mention that. Right, so Richie takes his Sprouts Mexicane out of the oven and he tests some and immediately starts choking and passes out. So that's another one on the passing out count.
Got
it. So we cut to 90 minutes later when Richie's regaining consciousness. How long was I out for? And Eddie tells him he was out for about an hour and a half. But that brings it up to 7 p.m, which is when everyone's expected to turn up for this party.
Eddie's just been sitting there reading a newspaper while Richie's passed out on the floor.
Yeah. Not showing any concern for Richie whatsoever or trying to bring him around. It's a nice bit of silence for Eddie.
It's an everyday occurrence.
Anyway, so there is a knock at the door with all of millions of Richie's guests. Yes. But no, it's only Dave Hedgehog and Spud Gun. Yeah, and Dave Hedgehog only brings 8p in beer money. Anyway, Eddie offers them a drink of home brew, but, you know, as you mentioned, it keeps dissolving the tea mug, so they have to drink it out of these huge enamel saucepans.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Dave's only going to be allowed in for 45 seconds.
8p's worth. Yeah, so once again, nobody's turned up to Richie's party except Eddie's two loser mates, and Richie is a bit down and he sarcastically proclaims, "Well, welcome to the Shagathon." And he sighs loudly, and, you know, at this point he is hit by a brilliant idea, Steve. That his only chance his only chance of success on Halloween is to summon the devil for real and do a deal to sell his soul for 25 years of non-stop nookie. So this is the plan they're going to go with for some reason.
You should have got the spooky blackboard out.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Well done. That's a good one.
No one knows what we're talking about.
Count Arthur.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a nice Count Arthur callback.
Right, and how's he going to do this?
Yeah, so we zip forward a bit to where Richie somehow cajoled or bullied the other three guys. And I never know how he does this, but I think he's just got pester power, where if they don't give him what he wants, he's just going to go on and on and on about it and ruin their night. Anyway, so the other three guys are all kneeling around this sort of pentangle on the ground, and we'll get to that joke later on.
All right.
Yeah, cool. And they're wearing not robes, but dressing gowns with the hoods on that are supposed to be robes with cowls. And Richie's leading them all in these incantations, but he stops them short in disappointment because they're not doing a very good job. They're sort of going, ooh, oh.
Yes, it's a bit half-hearted.
Anyway, so he stops them and he's just saying, listen, Eddie and Hedgehog and Spudgun, you're crap. This chanting's terrible. You couldn't raise a gnat's erection, much less the Prince of Darkness, which is a brilliantly delivered gag, if somewhat crude. So to atone for this, Richie makes them do a personal sacrifice and show dedication to the cause by eating the sprouts of evil. Eddie refuses point blank, so Richie kicks Eddie in the knackers, and when Eddie goes, ah, and screams in pain,
shoves the spoonful in.
Right in his gob. And a short time later, naturally, they all find themselves choking and pass out.
Got my pen ready here.
So that's 4 pass outs.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Excellent.
Oh, he's doubled our score. No, more than doubled our score.
Excellent. The scene cuts to a few hours later where they're regaining consciousness. So all 4 of them are still sprawled out on the floor. And this is when the flaming farts start up again. And, there's a good minute of them all just taking turns, popping away with all these flames coming out.
Yes, we've got about 3 minutes worth of a tenth of the episode.
Yeah.
The episode is dedicated to
flaming
bottoms.
Yeah, they've set up the gas lines and the effects crew are all being hired. So.
Everyone's standing by with fire extinguishers at great expense.
Oh, man. So they're all coming to, and yes, they're doing the flamethrower business from the Sprouts of Evil. But Richie looks at the clock, and it's just chiming midnight, which, as we all know, that's when the devil comes around after you've raised him. So there's a knock on the door. They all think the summoning has succeeded, and it's the devil at the door. So Richie runs off to, let the devil in. And the devil has arrived in the shape of what we'll call, I don't know, a 15-year-old girl or something like that, in a mask.
Yep.
With little devil horns on the mask and the red mask.
Cunning disguise.
Yeah. Yep. Richie is convinced in his fantasy, and he genuinely believes it is the devil. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah, he's quaking.
As
in his
we've
boots.
already said, he's got a talent for self-deception.
He totally does. Anyway, he's sort of quivering and quailing and sucking up to the devil, and shows her into the lounge and says, she says, "Look, I've come for Dave Hedgehog." Meanwhile, the boys keep setting fire to the furniture with their flaming farts and sneezes, but Richie orders Eddie to offer the devil a drink. And because the devil drinks blood, Eddie slashes his wrist. And there's blood. Sorry, I thought you were going to chime in with something.
Oh, yeah, he also tells everyone to clench.
Yeah, try not to set fire to the evil one. Oh, man. Yeah, so there's blood spurting everywhere out of Eddie's wrist. Meanwhile...
He did it with a bread knife.
Oh, did he really? That's going to be difficult to sew up. But he's got this little sherry glass that he's trying to fill up with stuff. Or, Dave Hedgehog helps him, but we're getting out of sequence here. Yes, meanwhile, Richie's trying to close this deal on selling his soul for a 25-year orgy of sauce. But the devil, who says her name is Doreen, explains she's there to collect Dave Hedgehog because Mum doesn't like him being around the loonies' house after midnight. So, yeah.
Yes, and you can see why.
Yeah, well, quite. There's blood everywhere and the whole flat's nearly on fire, so fair enough, Dave emerges from hiding behind Eddie's bath full of homebrew, and he's very fearful until he realises it's his daughter has come to get him. And Eddie's getting quite worried because this cut on his wrist is losing blood at great speed. And then he passes out, Steve.
Yes.
So that's another one for the list.
Yep.
Excellent.
Very good.
Spudgun, at this point, to end the episode, does a flaming path that ignites Eddie's entire stash of carrots filled with gunpowder.
Blows out the TV as well.
Oh, did that explode?
Oh, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, excellent. So the episode ends with a mighty explosion. The end. Hardly a satisfying wrap-up to the plot and all that, but
No, what?
that's not what this is all about.
What about all those unanswered questions?
I can't think of any. Can you?
What? How many more times may they have fallen unconscious
Yeah,
before the end of the night?
Oh. Right. So that is a Halloween episode of a UK sitcom
That is a
from
Halloween episode.
24 years ago. Doesn't feel that long.
I like the way that some people in it were oblivious to what Halloween was.
Yep. What, Spudgun and Eddie?
Yep.
Or maybe they know what trick-or-treating is. It's just they'd never seen it in real life.
Would barely have been a thing in Australia 25 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
I imagine
agree.
it could have been the same in the UK.
All right, well, let's run with that. It'll help it make more sense. Oh, now, look, what have you got? Have you got anything to lead off with?
The only other thing I had was a gag where he says, Eddie, have you got the chalice? While what are they doing? Preparing for the evil ones.
Yes, they're
Arrival.
about to do they're trying to summon up the devil, and he
says,
wants him to get the chalice.
Eddie,
for
have you got the
Sprouts next
chalice? And he
cake.
says, it's just my dressing gown's too tight or something.
Yeah.
Something like
It's
that.
just the way my dressing gown hangs over my trousers or whatever he says, yeah.
I like that one.
Did you fancy that one?
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
that was all right. That was one of the better double entendres.
Wasn't there one earlier in the episode? Oh, there's about 3 in every
It
episode.
was better
of
than
Bottom.
banging on his knocker. Was
That's
that what
true.
it was?
Yeah. Someone's giving our knocker a damn good banging.
Yeah.
Oh,
Woeful.
Right, so shall we start with plot holes or gags?
Well, let's do some plot holes.
Okay. Well, have you got any or should I just launch in?
No, I don't have any.
Right. Richie brings up that the devil likes to drink the blood of virgins,
Yes.
and they all look a bit nervous,
Yes.
including Dave Hedgehog, who,
Yes,
as
he-
we find out in this very episode, has a daughter.
Mm.
So why is Dave
All right.
Hedgehog... Yeah. Yeah.
Nice plot hole.
Why is he looking nervous unless because he's clearly an alcoholic. His brain is so knackered, he thinks he's never done the business, but he's got a daughter. Anyway, that's a bit of a plot hole right there, I thought.
What else have you got?
But I think, it's incumbent on us when we spot a plot hole to try and think of a way out of it.
Right.
All right, let's carry that through. So, Spudgun's
Maybe she
house.
was an IVF child.
Oh, yeah, could be. There you go. All right, well done, Steve. She could be adopted. All right, that explains that.
No, that would be another
What do you
another possibility.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. So we've got
They're
two.
all opening up now.
Yes.
Spudgun's house. Now, you were going to bring this up earlier. Well, you did bring it up.
Well, it's just that.
How does Eddie
Is
not
it both
know
of
where
them?
Spudgun
Don't
lives?
recognise?
Yeah.
Yeah. Never been there before.
No, and yet Spudgun's been around their place dozens of times.
Yeah.
So I do have a theory for this one.
What?
And that's that I think these are Eddie's mates from the pub. So whenever he's bumped into them, all they do is meet down the pub. And then once the pub gets to chucking out time, they'll go back to Richie and Eddie's because Spudgun clearly lives with his family. And he lives with his mum, and Dave Hedgehog lives with his family. So it makes sense that Eddie and Richie's is the place to go back to.
Does Spudgun mention his mum?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So that's the theory behind that
Well,
one.
it
But I
wouldn't
still
do to
think it's a
bring
plot hole.
Eddie and Richie back to after the pub's closed.
No, not unless you want your house burnt down or something like that. Absolutely. All right, good. That solves that one. Yeah. So I don't have any other plot holes apart from those two because there's barely any plot.
I was going to say. There's not a lot of plot.
Is that one of your observations?
Sure.
All right. Oh, good. Right. No need to
I
elaborate.
observed that.
Oh, good. Now, Rick's acting in reaction to the devil Doreen, as I mentioned earlier, is so good. He's like absolutely scared. I thought this is typical Rick, is that he can do an extremely good job, and he's supremely talented, and he's got everything going for him, and he throws everything into it with absolute gusto, but he puts all of this into the service of third-rate,
Yep.
childish, my 11-year-old wrote this sort of whole hours of flaming farts and all sorts of stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like I worked at a school where I've seen what the Year 8 drama students do, and they've got weeks and weeks to come up with like a 10-minute short play or something, and this is exactly the sort of stuff they come up with. You think,
They could
"Oh, my
knock a
goodness."
bottom script together.
They
in
could knock
2
one out
shakes of
easily.
a thingamajig.
Exactly. Anyway, let's not criticise Bottom because we've got
No, come
we'll
on.
have Bottom fans
We
in
can
the
do it.
house and they won't like it. Either way, no, I'm a big fan of that show. I've got all of it here, no problem at all. I love watching Rick and Aid's stuff.
You've got plenty of bottom.
Yes, it's all over the place. I'm a big fan of Bottom. There, but no, and that's what separates Filthy Rich and Cat Flap, which is complete zany, violent, far out stuff, from Bottom, and it hasn't got Ben Elton writing it, and so it's virtually the same characters.
I was
going to
say
the same thing.
Richie it's just Richie Rich minus the showbiz, and Eddie is just pretty much exactly the same.
Yes, there you go. Except it's not as good.
Except,
Nah,
doesn't have that little sparkle.
that's right. Oh dear. Well, it sounds like we're in judgment there, but yes, I'm going to call that the anti-case
Okay.
rather than putting a case. All right, let's leap into the gags. Steve-O, what have you got there?
I don't have any other gags.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, I'm expecting you to bring up one
'Cause
about pumpkin noises.
You took lots of notes,
Yeah, I
so
did.
they must be your list of criticisms then.
No, they're
Oh,
things
okay.
I noted as we went through. But tell me about the pumpkin noises.
Yeah, you thought I'd like that. I do love that. That's great.
There's some similarities between this and Leno and Woodley.
Yeah, there is a bit. Okay, so depending on whether we actually used that clip earlier, but even if we have, I'll re-explain it. So,
Yes.
Eddie's dressed as a banana, and he said they didn't have any pumpkin costumes. So he said, well, you'll just have to make pumpkin noises then, won't you, Eddie? And Eddie goes, woo! Richie's not impressed, and Richie says, well, you'll just have to be mute then. And Eddie, with the brilliant gag, what do you mean, a mute pumpkin or a mute banana?
Yes.
Which is beautiful,
That
harmless, lovely humour.
That was the best gag in the whole thing.
Oh, look, all the bits in this episode where Eddie's super enthusiastic, because shortly after that gag, Steve, Richie's explaining the Halloween trick-or-treating plan to Eddie, and he goes, right, Eddie. So you walk up to the door, you ring the doorbell, they answer the doorbell, and then you say trick-or-treat. And Eddie says, oh, I thought I was mute.
Yeah.
He goes, okay, just this once you can be a talking Halloween banana.
Yeah, they paid it off nicely there too.
But Eddie goes, okay, and he's super enthusiastic, and he leaps up, and he goes and gets the cattle prod, and whenever Eddie's enthusiastic, I find it very lovely and charming and beautiful.
Yes. I always wanted to be a talking banana.
Yeah, exactly. He's super keen. Oh, it's great.
Carrying a giant cattle prod.
Oh, it's tip top. Look, so I'm going to go through my gags, which are
Yes.
in order here. So this is one called You Haven't Got the Bus Fare, Mate, and that is where Richie, thinking he's Eddie's saviour and that Eddie's life would go to rack and ruin without him, he goes, mentally, Eddie, where would you be without me? And he goes, I'd be inside Maria Whittaker's bra. And Richie goes, oh, that's not a bad venue. Can I come along? And Eddie just taps his head and says, you haven't got the bus fare, mate, which I thought was a great line.
What does that mean? He hasn't got the imagination required.
Yeah, he hasn't got the imagination or brain power required to fully enjoy Eddie's mindscape of being inside Maria Whittaker's bra. And it doesn't even matter what the thing means. It's the way that Aid delivers it.
Yeah,
dude.
he does do a sterling job of delivering it.
Oh, he does. Now, Eddie dealing with the kids at the door is another great one because he's looking straight ahead, as I mentioned earlier, and there's no one there. And then he looks down and he goes, ah! And just the acting involved from Aid there is fantastic.
Imps.
Oh, well, that's exactly right. I can't give you sweets, I'll get arrested. It's more brilliance from Adrian Edmondson there. And then, of course, him dressed as a banana with the scary pumpkin noises. Oh, my goodness. All right, there's another one where Richie has explained the plan to Eddie. He goes, all right, Eddie, what do you think of the plan? And Eddie's just cracked a beer and he's on the couch in his banana costume going, superb, stupendous, the greatest plan ever. And Richie says, steady on with the praise, I don't want to rip my tights, implying that he's... well, figure it out for yourself. But trust me, it's a bloody fantastic joke. Especially the way Rick delivers it. What did you think of that one, Steve? Did you miss that one?
Oh no, it's just typical fare.
Oh,
Wouldn't say
dear.
it. Wouldn't say it. I was going to say stands above the rest, but that
Yeah.
would be.
Oh. Now, as I mentioned earlier, one of the few golden moments in this episode is where Rick is talking to Spudgun at Spudgun's front door.
Yep.
Twice
Yes,
they had to go through all this.
I did like this.
And
I think this would make a good clip.
Oh, yes, it would. Okay, I'll take that on board. So, and if I have used it as a clip, I'll cut this out. But just when Richie's completely lost patience with this whole thing, and he goes, look, we haven't got all night. We've got the whole street to do. I'm in my tights. Eddie's dressed as a banana. Just give us some cash. That's just pure gold. Oh, okay. Well, I think it's pure gold. Yes, and so, of course, Rick losing it through all the cattle prod scenes. I think now that he's no longer with us, it's nice to look back on moments like that and see him on the verge of cracking up. I think that's quite good as well. Now, I've written down Eddie's homebrew dissolving mugs. Did you think that was reasonable?
Yes, I like that.
Oh, jolly good.
I'm thinking of the dissolved mug.
Yeah.
It's basically just a handle with a little bit of mug attached. But then the comic effect of them drinking this homebrew, which looks to be some kind of dark, syrupy liquid out of these saucepans, is pretty funny.
Yeah. And the gag itself, which I don't think we mentioned, which was, how's the homebrew coming along, Eddie? He goes, well, it's only been in for 45 minutes, which means it must be nearly ready. So, Steve, tell us about this pentangle.
Well, I guess they ran out of pence, so they make it out of pencils. So it's a pencil tangle.
There you go. Have you got any pens? No. Oh, it'll have to be a pencil tangle.
Yeah.
Come on, that's a classic harmless pun. There's nothing crude about it. It's just standard wordplay.
Yep.
They actually fit a few decent gags in there.
Yeah. I appreciated it.
During this, I actually witnessed you laugh at an actual joke.
Oh.
And it was
Which one was
the
it?
Ethel Cardew joke. When they were talking about virgins and stuff. And then Richie says, hang on, Eddie, what about your paramour, Ethel Cardew?
Yeah, what was the rest of the joke?
Come on, Eddie, what about Ethel Cardew, your paramour?
She is neither a virgin nor, technically speaking, a girl. Besides which, she hasn't been speaking to me since the super glue incident. Hasn't been speaking to anyone much, actually.
Yeah, the bit at the end was pretty bad. But, yeah. I did laugh at it.
All right, good. And the other thing about Bottom, of course, is they do the fourth wall breaking looks to camera. Not very often.
Not much in this one.
No. And not as much as in Filthy Rich and Cat Flap, but I always like those. All right, well, let's sum up this episode, shall we? Explosions, flaming farts, cattle prods, soiled trousers, nasal ingestion of household cleaning liquids, slashed wrists, and devil worship.
And by my reckoning, 8 separate counts of
People losing
consciousness. Yes. There you go. That could be the new Wikipedia entry for this episode.
Before I make what I'll call the anti-case, have you got anything to say?
No.
No? All right.
I mean, obviously we love Aid and Rick in pretty much everything they do. So I wouldn't say it's unenjoyable.
No, it's enjoyable.
It's enjoyable, but it's just not
anywhere
them
near
at their
5
best.
star.
Yeah. But there you can see they're having fun with it.
It's very nice to look back on. I think, as I said earlier, it's exactly the sort of thing which, when it started and I was in my teens, I found hilariously excellent.
Yep.
Wow, look, man, they're the undisputable kings of puerile, lowbrow humour and cartoonish violence.
Yes. No argument there.
Yeah, if you're in the mood for it, it's bloody fantastic. But I reckon for this one, the first half is comedy gold, but the second half is an absolute...
It's a train wreck.
I don't even know, but... It's here by virtue of being A, a Halloween episode that I actually had in my collection.
Yes.
And B, we haven't done Bottom yet.
No.
And what better time to try than in Halloween, I thought. So I've called this an anti-case is because I don't actually think it should go into the Hall of Fame.
Oh. Okay.
So
you're knocking your own one down.
We've not done that on Sitcom Showdown before.
How does it, well, let me ask you this. How does it stack up in terms of Bottom? Is it middle of the pack or...
Yeah, so
one of the better ones, one of the worst ones?
Yeah, I'd call it a 3-star Bottom episode. There are other Bottom episodes which are better than this one, but this does have 1 or 2 highlights which are up there with the best Bottom gags ever, i.e. anything to do with Richie and the cattle prod, and the exploding, carrot and Eddie dressed as a banana. So that's all top shelf stuff, but in general, this episode is not in the higher echelons of Bottom episodes. But it is a Halloween episode.
So I can't argue that.
Yeah.
And it's a UK Halloween episode, which is interesting.
Yeah, they're few and far between. So with apologies to Bottom fans, of which I am one, I'm extremely glad to have finally brought it to the table here so that we can talk about it.
Well, bottom fans tell us
Yeah.
they suggest a 5-star one.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I mean, we were very limited in that we had to pick a Halloween episode. So if we're going to do bottom again, which episode would you recommend?
Yes.
So all in all, fantastic stuff. Love Rick and Aid. It's just not up there with the young ones and or Filthy Rich and Catflap.
No. I was impressed they didn't set the set on fire or blow themselves up while they were making this.
That we know of. It could well have happened, couldn't it?
Yep.
All right, jolly good. We've done all that now. Next episode, Steve, you're bringing in a Halloween thing?
My pick.
Ooh. Would you be willing to tell us which
No.
continent it comes from?
No.
No? You don't want to tell us which
Well, that
continent
implies
it
that I've
comes
chosen it.
from? Oh, okay, cool. Well, that will be a genuine surprise then when we get there.
But we'll be back in a fortnight, and I'll be sharing that, and I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, well, we'll be back in a fortnight then.
Yes. See you, listeners.
Bye. Join us next time on Sitcom Showdown when we'll be putting another 5-star episode under the microscope. And in the meantime, you can contact us with feedback on Facebook, Twitter @Sitcom Showdown, or by email sitcomshowdown@gmail.com.